Welcome to Bayloric TV and this edition of Inside Story. We ask the questions you want the answers to. And now our host, Ingram Jones.
Hi and welcome to Bayloric TV. I'm your host Ingram Jones, and tonight's show, heavyweight contender Bryant Jennings. Bryant Jennings, if you've ever watched any of my boxing predictions and videos, you'll know that I rank Bryant Jennings as the number one top prospect in heavyweight boxing in the USA. I know some will disagree with me, some will say Deontay Wilder, but for me, Bryant Jennings is the guy that I tick to do things in the heavyweight division. And so when I got the opportunity to interview Bryant, I was like really excited because it was somebody I've seen fight and actually listened to him talk, and I thought, you know what, this could be a really interesting interview. And believe me, Bryant Jennings does not disappoint. Without further ado, let's hear what Bryant Jennings has got to say.
Good evening, Bryant Jennings.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for talking to Bayloric TV. This is an interview I have looked forward to for a long time. As you know, I am a supporter, a fan of what you do as a boxer. So tell the fans what division you fight in and your record, please.
Yeah, I'm Bryant Jennings. I'm a heavyweight, and I'm currently 16-0 with 8 knockouts.
Excellent stuff. Okay, so Bryant, tell me more about what made you get into boxing.
I just pretty much walked in the gym. I've been boxing since January 2009, and it was just my competitiveness that just brought me into the gym. I had no inspiration. I had nobody that drew me to the gym. Nothing. I just walked in.
Okay. Nobody inspired you to get into boxing. There's nothing. You didn't watch any boxing bouts or anything like that, or?
Nah, of course I knew about boxing. Boxing is a sport that I was interested in, far as watching, but never participating in.
So during the days of Mike Tyson, when he was destroying people, what were you doing?
I was destroying people also. I was just doing it in a different form.
Okay.
I was an athlete of other sports. I played basketball and football. I ran track. And I did pretty much everything. But I was, of course, we fought in the streets. We held our own in the streets, but it was never organized boxing.
Okay. Just recently, you were on a TV show, I believe.
Yeah.
With Iron Mike. He was on the show as well. What did that feel like?
Yeah, 106 in Park. It felt great. I lived it, so it was kind of like didn't hit me until everything was over with, and I kind of expect things like that to take place now because my level of confidence is pretty high.
Okay.
But all my excitement was out the window before the show started. Once I got the news that I was going to be on there, I was super excited. But I calmed myself down, and, toned it down a bit, and, got comfortable and was just on there. But after I actually seen it, I got excited again, and then I was just like, wow, I just was on TV with Mike Tyson.
Wow. So sitting opposite or next to Mike Tyson, what did that make you feel like?
It made me feel like I'm accomplishing some things, other than me, winning all of my fights. Because I made it to, on like a bigger screen in a different setting, and just exercising my outside talents, other than boxing, because most fighters, only time you're going to see them on TV is if they're actually fighting.
So when you were on the show, what were you actually doing?
The show was just a segment, called The Man Cave, and they just had a couple questions. It was kind of like a theme to where as though, you and your boys, y'all sitting at the card table playing poker, and just manly discussions, and it was a couple questions that came about, and we answered them as if we was actually in a man cave.
Wow. Fantastic, fascinating stuff. So when you were looking into Tyson's eyes, did you feel any sort of, gosh, I'm glad I wasn't around in his era, or damn, I wish he was in my era, I could have fought him? Did you feel any of that stuff being around the man that was talked about as one of the baddest man on the planet at one point?
No, all that type of stuff came afterwards, and it was like, I think it was premeditated at first, to where it was like, okay, when I see Tyson, I'm just gonna see how do I see him, but I seen him as a person that he is today, and not the person who he used to be. But if I could ever think about the person that he used to be, of course I would wanna fight someone like Tyson, or I wouldn't be afraid to get in the ring with a person like Tyson. He was definitely around in a better era, only because of him and guys like Holyfield and stuff like that. So, I mean, if I was to think about me back in Tyson days, it would have been more exciting to me. I would have wanted to be around in that era.
Okay. In terms of your career so far, I mean, how tall are you?
I'm 6'3".
You're 6'3". Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So did you ever get, when you were at the show, any chance to look and stand next to Tyson?
Yeah. I stood next to him. We took a lot of pictures together. We conversated real briefly because we had to go back to our dressing rooms and get ready and do all the things, but we didn't really get a chance to really sit down and talk.
Wow.
Because that wasn't what we was there for. So I respect the introduction that we had.
Okay, so he never got to talk to you about tips, or he'd seen you fight, or because Tyson's a historian of the sport, as you know. So
yeah, well, only thing he said, I see what you're doing. Keep up the good work and good luck on your career.
Wow. So far in your career, you've had 16 fights, 8 by knockout. Some would suggest that you're not the big puncher because you've not got 16 fights and 16 KOs. But having said that, the opposition you fought has been testing, I would say. You fought, it was Lakovic you fought?
Yes.
How did you find that fight?
That fight, it came to me because in January I was supposed to have fought him. I had stepped in on short notice, and he was the original opponent on the card because Eddie Chambers had pulled out. And they all thought I was crazy. They all thought it was like, wow, well, you only have what was it, 10 fights? They said you only have 10 fights and you want to fight a guy like this? And so Lakovic pulled out of the fight, and I wound up fighting another undefeated person, and I wound up winning that. And then Lakovic was like, okay, I guess I can take him now. And so they scheduled a later date, which was 3 months later, and that's how I got to fight him.
Wow, and then you fought, I believe, a guy called Bowie. I can never pronounce his last name. Tapo? Can you pronounce? Tupu, yes. And it was a beautiful right uppercut you threw, was it not?
Yeah, but the body shot set all that up.
Okay, so going to these fights, you were considered the underdog?
Yeah, just about, out of 5 fights, I was the underdog at least 3 times. And
what does that feel like?
It just feel motivating. Me being an underdog, it makes me even more motivated. I'm like I come into the game already motivated, but them telling me I'm going to lose, them telling me that I can't do something, that just fuels my tank.
But does that bring? I mean, when the media are questioning you and saying, "Oh, Bryant Jennings, he's not going to do it. You might get knocked out tonight," blah blah blah. What does that do to a fighter's psyche, or what does it do to your psyche? How do you deal with the media point of view?
Well, to any fighter, it could harm them, but depending on their mental stability. I'm a mental beast. Like I don't let anything get to me. I can ignore a lot of things. I can brush a lot of things off. When I come into conflict, I can just make it seem like I'm not even angry or nothing. So I don't let a lot of that stuff get to me. But it never would get to me. It only fuels my boat because my level of confidence, it raises high above any criticism that anybody can bring upon me.
Does that have to do with your upbringing, the things you went through on the streets? Why is that?
Nah, I don't even think it's that. I just think it's a guy's gift because I've been around a lot of people that I've been around all my life that we came up around the same exact things. We spent just about the same amount of time together, as we did apart. We spent more time than we did together than we did apart. and a lot of the guys that I came up with still don't have the same ways of thinking, the same ways of living that I do. So I just think it's God's. I think it's a God's gift.
So when you talk about God, is that a religious or spiritual belief, or just a figurative speech?
No, it's pretty much a figure of speech, but everybody has a religion within themselves. God does exist, and whoever your God is, everybody has a higher power. Everybody should have a higher power.
And for you, is that a driving force? Is that a strength for you at tough times?
Well, no, that's just the relationship I have with myself. So God is within myself, and regardless of what you believe in, like I said, your higher power is within yourself. So as long as you conversate and you in tune with yourself, you in tune with your own soul, everything pretty much clicks. I'm not gonna say it's there to stay and it's pretty strong, but but if once I practice that so much to where as though I have a strong state of mind and I have a strong mentality.
Well, that's some very deep stuff there. It's you remind me almost of when you're speaking, Evander Holyfield. Evander Holyfield had such strong convictions, and he always had that never say die mentality.
That's a good comparison.
So some people have mentioned to me, hey, this guy looks like Evander Holyfield all over again. So, the comparisons are there. So that sort of mentality is definitely, you need that mental strength. A lot of boxing fans would say boxing's about physical strength and getting in there and throwing your best punch. But the mental strength is so key to a fight. Because if a fighter can beat you outside the ring mentally, no matter how many punches you can throw, if you're beaten mentally before you get inside that ring, the fight's done.
Yeah, the boxing is definitely 90% mental, 10% physical.
So, in terms of your amateur background, did you have a lot of amateur fights, or?
Yeah, I had 17 amateur fights.
And what did you do in those amateur fights?
My record was 13-4.
Okay.
But my first loss wasn't really a loss. That's how I got to go to the Golden Gloves.
Okay.
My second loss, I really wouldn't consider that a loss neither. But it was just I was only boxing for 5 months.
Okay.
So, but I didn't know the point system and stuff like that, and it was never physical. It was always just off points. All of my losses was never physical.
Okay. So talk to me now about your trainer. Who is your trainer?
My trainer is Fred Jenkins.
Okay. Tell me more about him.
Fred Jenkins is a Hall of Fame trainer. He trained a lot of the guys. He trained David Reed, Zaire Raheem, Rockin' Rodney Moore, Brian Boogaloo Watts. Brian Boogaloo Jones. Who else? Marvin Garris. He trained a lot of guys coming up, and he's the best trainer in Philadelphia right now, arguably. And he's well known in Philadelphia. He's well known on the East Coast and in America in training.
Wow. So you mentioned Philadelphia. That's the home also of a certain Bernard Hopkins.
Yeah, Bernard, that's my man.
So you know Bernard well then?
Yeah.
What sort of tips has he given you? I know he once talked about coming up to the heavyweight division. I don't know if that was just talk or he actually was serious about it.
Yeah, no, I think that was talk. shit, you leave it up to Bernard, he can do anything.
Yeah, he's Superman really, isn't he? He's still fighting. He's fighting against Travis Cloud. A lot of people saying that Cloud's going to beat him, but I'm not so sure. I think he stands a good chance of beating Cloud.
Yeah. He's definitely a good boxer. He can definitely get into your head. And he's been doing it for a while. He has a lot of experience. He's a very, very, very tricky fighter, and it's not easy. It may look easy when you're watching it, but when you're in there, it's much harder.
Yeah, he's another one with great mental strength and inner belief.
Yeah, definitely.
So, okay, you are the record you have now. What's the next step? Because I'm hearing lots of stories. I heard one story that Bryant Jennings, he's ready to fight Vladimir Klitschko. Another story, Bryant Jennings, he's ready to jump in the ring with Seth Mitchell. Bryant Jennings, he may fight Tyson Fury. what's really going on with Bryant Jennings?
The situation with the Klitschko, I was considered as one of the opponents, but in the midst of me waiting, this Jonathan Banks and this Seth Mitchell fight fell apart, and I'm always in shape. It was kind of like two less of days, 9 days or 11 days, however much it was kind of like a little bit too short for right now, but I was willing to take that chance, and I know I can whip myself up into fight shape real easy because I'm not far from it. I'm always in shape. But the fight shape will be different. But I know where I can take my body, and I know my mental stability was there. Like the way though I can do it if I actually want it. Then it would have been, and then it would have been good for boxing. Not only, but it just it would have accumulated a lot of finances and stuff like that. Everything was good with it. It was worth it, and it was like something that I could have stole the show because that's how I got hot. I got hot off short notice fight.
So, but you would have stepped in against Vladimir Klitschko.
Yeah, I would have stepped in against Vladimir. I think Vladimir is beatable. Everybody gets beat by him, of course, but it's just that mental preparation that I have. The way though I'm not scared of nobody. I don't hear what you say. Yeah, they might say he's going to do this to me and all that. I'm not trying to hear that. I'm gonna do what I'm supposed to do, and that's fight for 12 whole rounds.
Well, if you can get inside that jab, champ, and you can land them bombs, you definitely sound more than and two men in a ring, punches fly, and Vladimir is known to have not the greatest chin in the world.
Yeah, and a lot of the world haven't even seen the way I actually fight yet. I mean, every one of my fights, I've been on the defensive side. Even when I was on an offensive side against Steve Collins, I wanted him to fight more. I had a different fight in mind. I couldn't get my rhythm, so it was kind of like an ugly fight for me. Even though I won every round, I was scored the shutout, but it was like I really couldn't get the rhythm, and I really wanted him to fight more. So it was kind of like that was like my worst fight, even though I won on a shutout.
Okay, so I mean, in terms of fighting a Klitschko, you could take the fight with Klitschko tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's great that you would love to take a fight against Klitschko and you show you're not scared. But clearly, maybe getting more experience fighting big guys like Klitschko. What do you think?
Well, first of all, experience is nothing but time.
Okay.
I've seen people do in very little time what it took people to do so much time to do. Right. And it's plenty of people that took a whole lot of time and still never accomplished anything. So experience is really just nothing. It's just how you feel, how you go into there, where your mentality is, and you actually have to be physically ready. Not only mentally, but physically ready. The physical aspect of stepping in there with Vladimir Klitschko is a main factor. I mean, because we can't tell where your mentality is. We already, majority of the people scared anyway. But he always exposed people physically to where as though they show that they're physically not ready to be in there with no doggone Vladimir Klitschko. But I don't think there's anyone in the world that's more physical than I am. Not saying that I'm the most physical, but I'm just saying it in the sense that I'm physically in shape. And that man is definitely not no Superman. He's not lifting buildings and flipping cars. So I mean, like, I'm just as much in shape as he is.
So you don't believe that by getting more tune-up fights to prepare you for Vladimir Klitschko would give you a better shot at not just winning the title, but being a champion that can hold on to that title? Because, to be honest, Vladimir Klitschko is not the only giant out there. There's Vladimir Klitschko, there's Vitaly Klitschko, there's Price, there's Fury. So you've got 4 giants there already.
Yeah. What the key thing that you said when you just asked me this question was would it make it better? Of course, more experience would make it better, but it don't determine the fact whether I'm ready or not at this moment.
Okay.
That makes sense?
That does make sense. That does make sense. So the heavyweight division. I mean, you're on Twitter all the time. You're on Facebook. Tell the fans more about what you do behind the scenes, because a lot of fans don't understand what Bryant Jennings does behind the scenes.
Okay, yeah, well, I am definitely I'm an entrepreneur. Before boxing, I still had my 9 to 5. I was a contractor at once. Not my own business, but I was self-employed. And I did hardwood floors, I did home improvement, regular normal contracting work. I own a couple properties, own 5 properties. I owned 4 before I actually started boxing. So I was been running those and just being a mentor in the streets and doing all these other things. And I just believe that I have a different type of persona other than a lot of these boxers. Like my marketing skills is definitely up there. Not to toot my own horn or something like that, but I'm just speaking on myself right now. But a lot of these guys aren't marketable. I see myself being marketable in all aspects of entertainment. Like I do music. I can rap very well. And I got a lot of common sense. I know how to dress. A lot of these guys don't know when they get on these cameras, when they get in press conferences, they don't know how to dress. They don't know how to talk. Their sense of humor sucks. They're just non-marketable people. The only thing they're good for is just getting in the ring. But that's
punches.
Express on myself the way as though I'm more than a boxer.
Yes, I did manage to hear some of your rap. Regarding your rap, I've done an interview recently with a gentleman called D.A. Smart. Do you know who D.A. Smart is?
Nah.
He's a Chicago hip hop star.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, when the interview comes out, you'll know a little bit more about him. But yeah, so what sort of music are you into?
I like rap music. Rap music and R&B. Every now and then I listen to some oldies. A little country won't hurt if it's on.
Okay.
I don't critique any music. I'm a fan of instruments. And if the music sounds good, it has a good vibe to it. I don't always have to listen to the words. Just the melody of the music. I don't discriminate against music.
Cool. All right, back to the heavyweight division. Let's go through the division. So where are you ranked now in the heavyweight division?
Right now, I'm ranked number 3 in IBF, and I think it's 21 or 22 in the WBC.
Okay. So you look at the heavyweight division, and we've got in the WBC rankings, 1 and 2, Arreola and Stavern. Those 2 guys. Talk to me about them.
Arreola been around for a while, and Stavern I don't even know. I never seen his face. I just heard his name from him fighting him having a fight scheduled with Arreola. I've never seen or heard anything about him.
Okay. Tyson Fury.
Mm-hmm. Tyson Fury is I respect Tyson Fury. I respect everybody, by the way. But Tyson Fury is definitely a person who's grown in the last year. He is doing his thing. So is a lot of the other boxers. But Tyson Fury definitely doing his thing. I see him improving, and I think he's probably the best of all the prospects that I can see right now, because of his progress and because of the things that where he came from, and he's pretty much learning the sport fast and quickly.
Okay, he's got a fight coming up against Steve Cunningham, I believe. Your views on the fight?
My views on the fight. Well, Tyson is a big guy. Tyson has a chance of landing a big shot. I don't really know. Steve's a good boxer.
Okay.
Steve's a good boxer, and that's just going to be like the best of the best. To where as though if Steve boxes well, he can win. But if Tyson lands some of them shots and get in there, then I don't know. I don't know how long Steve can be able to take that. It's 12 rounds, but then again, Steve don't really have that heavyweight power to put a fear on Tyson Fury. But you never know. Steve may hit him with 3 or 4, You might not be the one hitter quitter, but if you get hit with 3 or 4 in a row, that just may do it. So I mean, it's going to be a good fight. Of course, I got Steve. Steve's my personal friend. That's my man.
Okay.
So I'm definitely a go with Steve, and I will want him to win this fight.
Okay, sounds great. Seth Mitchell and Jonathan Banks. Let's go with Seth Mitchell first.
Oh yeah, it's Seth Mitchell. I respect Seth Mitchell. He never, he's very, very humble. But once you get to a point to a game to where it's though, hey, we getting close to actually meeting. You got to warm it up for the fans. You got to start it. You got to start that talking. Start getting the fans warmed up for a fight that they know that could possibly happen. But on the other things, I respect him as a man. I respect his career. He's a good athlete. I don't really think he has what it takes to be a dominant fighter. Because everybody has power. But he's working on a lot of things. He himself. He came a long way, and he has improved in some of his boxing attributes. But the question now is, can he take a punch? Wow. And his last outings, it didn't look so good, but I'm quite sure he's the type of person that works hard and tries to do better. And at the end of the day, that's why I respect him.
I want to talk about that as a minute. His situation now, Mitchell. The other day he was a boxing superstar. He was like, yes, the next best thing in boxing. Now he's in a situation where he's just been knocked up by Jonathan Banks. He's coming back now, and it's almost like his promotional team have said, you know what? You've got to show that you can do this stuff, and if you can't show this stuff, then you're out. We've invested money in you. You've got to fight this guy, and you've got to beat this guy. How would you deal with a situation like that?
Well, first of all, you got to know exactly that boxing is not only a sport; it's a business. And if you don't produce, you get cut. If you don't play well, you get cut from the team, and you got to know that. That's why we strive so hard to keep up, and strive so hard to improve on our skills, because we know that once we slip up, we have these promoters, and we need them. They need us, but we need them too, because we didn't get to a point to where as though we can fend for ourselves. When everybody can't be a Mayweather. So we need the promoters, so we need to impress them just as well as we need to impress the fans, because the promoters produce the business, and everything revolves. It's a circle. Everything is just a circle. But we got to know that if we don't do good, then them people they're not going to have interest in us. They're not going to invest they're not going to invest in us as like they would if we was winning. So you got to know that before you go into the ring, that if you lose. If you keep losing, they ain't gonna fuck with you no more.
David Price and Tony Thompson. So give us your take on David Price.
David Price. I didn't watch too much of him, but he's good. He has an amateur background.
Yes.
So I would expect him to just be educated on all the boxing know-hows. He's been fighting forever. So he's a different breed, but in order for him to to take a stand, he has to go in there with somebody like Tony Thompson. But you would expect a person like him to have already been at a higher level. These guys that has the Olympic background, and they have bronze medalists, gold medalists, and they on the same level as me. So does that say something good for me, or does it say something bad for them? So either way you put it, that's how it is. But him, I think this Tony Thompson fight is tailor-made for him. It's a good fight for him. It's definitely a good fight. I'm kind of jealous because I wanted Tony Thompson too. Not the great in Tony Thompson, but I just know that Tony would definitely give up a good fight, and it'll definitely be a good test. But I think it'll be an easier test for David Price, and I think that fight is tailor-made for him. I think he wins against Tony Thompson.
Okay, let's go down the table a bit more. Manuel Shah, he's calling everybody out at the moment.
Yeah, well, I don't even know if that's even him on those Twitter pages. I just think that's.
I believe it is him. We're going to be set up an interview soon, so it's definitely him.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I see that he may be catching on to what you have to do in order to stay alive in this boxing world. Just because you have a loss, you know, don't mean the only way you get back on top is to fight. Or you mean you gotta exercise all avenues. You gotta get on your Twitter. You gotta get on your Instagram. You gotta stay alive in the midst of your absence. So I think that's what he's just doing. I don't know if he really want to fight everybody, but it's just the fact of him going out there, showing his hunger and attacking everybody from every angle. I just think that's a good thing. That's marketing. That's boxing, and that's what it's all about.
I'm going to mention two fighters here from Britain, Derek Chisora and David Haye.
Yeah, Derek Chisora. I just think that I mean, he had a good start. He had a good start, but he got exposed a few times, and I just don't. I mean, it was one time when he fought. I think he fought Fury where he actually won.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think he has problems with just staying in shape. I think he could be.
You're talking about the Hellenius fight.
Yeah. It was Hellenius. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, and I'm not too hot on Hellenius neither. So, but yeah, I just think if he stays in shape, as he put a little more time into his work, I think he could be better. David Haye, on the other hand, he come up from a cruiserweight, so he has the mobility, he has the agility, he has the athleticism. Only because he comes up from a cruiserweight, he holds his heavyweight weight. He holds it down, and he can handle the heavyweight. So I mean, it's a cruiserweight converted to a heavyweight. So you're gonna get more skill, and with this heavyweight division, it's not hard to showcase skill against guys who can't really move, guys who only they can hit. So David Haye is definitely shining on the game, but he hasn't really fought in a while. He fought Derek Chisora. He did knock him out with a good combination, but David Haye is good. David Haye is good.
Two more fighters. Pulev.
I heard of him, but never seen him.
And there's one other guy I was going to mention. He's completely slipped my mind.
Who?
There's someone else who completely slipped my mind. I was thinking about him and completely slipped my mind. There's Pulev and somebody else in the heavyweight division.
How about my man Amir Mansour?
Yes. And Malik Scott, of course.
Yeah. Both of them are cool peoples with me. They are definitely a force to be reckoned with. And yeah, I don't think Glasgow wins this fight with Malik.
Don't you?
Yeah, I don't think Glasgow wins this fight with Malik. Malik come from I come from the same class he come from. My trainer actually started him out also.
Okay.
And Malik been around for a while. He has good boxing skills. He has a low knockout rate, but he's undefeated.
Okay.
I mean, if that means anything, but and like I say, in this division, it's not hard to be undefeated right now. The
thing is, the criticism that's been made of Malik Scott and another man I meant to mention, but we'll wait for him in a moment. When you've got a record of 33-0, and really you look to the record, there's a few recognisable names. People ask the question: you're 33-0, you've not had a world title fight, you're not even ranked in the top 5 in any of the, what's going on? And that's the question asked to Malik Scott. So people kind of discredit him without really looking at him and say, well, you know what? This guy is 33-0. You look at box rate, well, he hasn't really fought anybody. Bum. That's how boxing fans look at things. They don't give people a chance.
Yeah. I don't blame him for that. That's definitely a setback and a big question mark on his career. But I believe that he's still alive. And in this fight with Glasgow, once he just showcases his great boxing skills and he beat guys that's supposed to beat him, he still can move up, and he's relatively, well, I'm not gonna say he's young, even though he has a lot of fights, but I mean he's still around. This division ain't that hard to shine in. So I think right now was a good time for him to step it up as he's doing right now, and he'll make out all right.
Now the other American prospect. We did talk about Jonathan Banks, didn't we? What were your thoughts on Jonathan Banks?
I never really seen too much of Jonathan Banks other than when he fought Seth.
Okay.
But I respect Jonathan. Jonathan, he's humble as hell. Good boxing skills, and he came up from a lighter weight also. So you can expect some athleticism and some agility there too.
Okay. Yes, the other heavyweight who's 27 fights, 27 KOs, the bronze bomber.
Yeah, Deontay Wilder.
That's the man.
Yeah. Well, I believe Deontay has talent. He has potential. He definitely has that right hand. But like in boxing, you have to sooner or later he's going to have to step it up, and if he wants to be labeled like the best. But other than that, he could just be amongst the better boxers, but he can't be at the top of the list. I won't compare him to Scott in that situation, but it's kind of similar. But Scott has been in there with better opponents, but it's kind of like the theory that you have against Scott, I have against. Yeah. That was a call coming through. I'm sorry. I'm just biased. With Scott. So, but it's kind of similar. If I may sneak that in there, it's definitely kind of similar. But
I can understand that.
He has to fight somebody. I mean, now that he's going to wind up 33-0 with no title shot and not ranked and stuff like that. So,
I mean, there's talk. He mentions. I think we had a back, myself and Deontay Wilder had a back and forth because I did a video on court and went Deontay Wilder's a joke. It was a video I did. I said basically I didn't say I said his character. I'm not knocking his character. I'm not knocking his personality. I'm not even knocking his boxing skill. What I'm knocking is the opponents that he's fighting, and then afterwards wanting to say that he's ready to fight for the heavyweight title. And that to me is a problem. Because you're trying to tell the fans that based on who I've been fighting, I'm ready to fight for the heavyweight championship world. And if you look at the guys he's been fighting, some guy came up from middleweight and he fought. Really, these are guys that are well below the level that he should be fighting with a guy his talent.
Yeah. The one fight that I really was disgusted over. I mean, because I'm not jealous at all. I'm doing me. But it just was like he fought. Who was it? Damon McCurry. He came in at 5'11", 262 pounds with a knee brace on. And I said, y'all put this shit on TV? And I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like like you can ask my promoter himself if when they come up to me with fighters who I don't feel as though would do me any justice, I turn them down. But if they put me in there with a guy that came out looking like Damon McCurry, not bad mouth for him, I mean, hey, the guy was doing what he had to do. But I mean, if they put me in there with a guy like that, I would be so embarrassed. I would be very, very, very embarrassed.
I mean, you and Deontay are the two advertised heavyweights, the two best prospects in American heavyweight division. How does it make you feel?
It makes me feel good, but I still feel as though that I'm the lone star between the two.
Yes.
There's definitely other prospects out there. There's definitely other talent out there. I'm not the only one, but if you want to put me and him together, I feel as though I'm the lone star. I don't have the amateur background. I don't have the bronze medalist. I don't have Golden Boy.
Who's your promoters, by the way?
And I only have 16 fights, and he has almost twice as many fights as I do. So I salute to myself to even be categorized above a person of who they pipe up to a bigger stage.
So who promotes Bryant Jennings at the moment?
I'm promoted by Russell Peltz.
Okay, so is Russell Peltz is he small promoter or in comparison to someone like Bob Arum or? Yeah, definitely. Do you think that's going to hurt you having a small, a small time promoter? Do you think that's going to hurt you when it comes to the big fights and being nudged around and bullied around the table when it comes to negotiating?
We have help with main events.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know between the two. You know, we can grow together, and hopefully hopefully everything will fall in place, and we can do that. I mean, you can't compare him to a top rank or you know, or a Golden Boy because they have a shitload of fighters, and you know they're more popular. But main events promote well, and I think that's good enough help to get us to where we need to get to.
Ah, I remember the heavyweight, Joe, the future
Hank,
Hanks, who I met in England.
yeah, I never even seen his face. I just heard his name.
28 and 26 or 25 and 0 and something like that. Wow.
Yeah.
So I heard a rumor, and only a rumor, and I'll just put it out there. Bryant Jennings rumored to become an HBO fighter. Is this true?
What? Me pressuring to become an HBO fighter?
Well, hearing that you may be an HBO fighter, is that true?
Um, what? Like signing the deal with HBO?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
I don't know about that.
That's not true.
No. I don't have anything in the works to be doing that. Of course, I would like to be an HBO fighter. HBO is the next level.
Yes.
Um, but for right now, I'm an NBC sports fighter.
Right.
I haven't
So
on
go ahead.
HBO yet.
So who would you like to fight next? Who's your? I know you talked about Klitschko and you talked about Seth Mitchell. How possible is that fight to happen?
I mean, I only wanted to do that because it was there,
Mm.
and that's an opportunity. But other than that, I wouldn't have Seth on my radar, not unless not unless he beats Banks and gets and gets all those credentials back. So it was kind of like either the winner out of Banks and Seth, that I would like to have faced, or the winner out of Areola and Stavern that I would like to have faced. You
Mm-hmm.
know, only for the simple fact that hey, that's going up, that's moving up, and no disrespect to anybody. I mean, they're closer to my goal than I am. So I would like to take that. Hey, that's what we're here for.
So you have no interest in fighting journeyman or padding your resume out. Is what you're
Nah,
basically saying.
I don't want to do that. I told my people when I first started, I said, look, I don't want to wait till I'm 25 and 0 to find out that I don't got it. I don't want to be wasting my time. I want to know what I have right now, which I believe in myself that I do have the tools and the strength to take it far. But I don't want to be 25 and 0 and then fight my first test fight. Let's get all this stuff over with right now. Let's build this thing up right now in the right way. And I want to say, well, Bryant fought good guys from start to finish.
Okay. So you said 18 fights with 9 knockouts. Yes.
16
16 fights with 9 knockouts.
with 8 knockouts.
8 knockouts. Sorry. Now, does that some would say that would suggest that your power isn't as good as it should be as a heavyweight, or the opponents you've been fighting have had very good resistance, good punch resistance. What would you say?
I would just say it in a sense to where as though, all right, first of all, I had 5 fights last year. 4 of my opponents had more knockouts than I had fights.
Right.
And so they were the better knockout artists,
Okay.
and I knocked them out. So another thing is when you have other tools, you don't have to just use strength. Like I can tuck my strength in my pocket and use other abilities that I have when I'm in that ring,
Mm.
and just kill them with boxing for real. And I don't have to, like, if I and my speed plays a good part of it too. Because if I'm swinging slow like them, then of course I'm gonna hit hard like them. But my punches are coming faster, more are landing, and the power is pretty much turned off. I turn on my speed, to get away from them shots. I'm not taking those shots neither. My defense is something good also. So I'm not taking them shots, but I'm giving them shots away. And I haven't lost. And like I say, four out of my last 5 opponents had more knockouts than I had fights.
And you still beat them.
And on the fifth opponent, if you want to count my January fight, he had what? He had 9 knockouts. I had 10 fights. So I mean, hey, he almost had more knockouts than I had fights. So I overcome that knockout artist. I knock out artists. That's how you can put it.
Sounds interesting. So is there anything planned for your next bout?
No, everything now is very important because the game is heating up right now. The game is definitely heating up, and I don't want to make any bad moves. I don't know whether a journeyman would be a good move or a top 10 contender would be a good move. It's just real difficult right now. It's something to sit down and think about. Because this is the turning point of your career. This is the most important part of your career, and this is something definitely that definitely takes time and patience to think about and think it through before you actually go into there.
The Klitschko brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Vitali first.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I mean, shit, they great. they great. Because there hasn't been anybody to beat them since 2004.
Okay.
Regardless of the opposition, regardless of the level of opponents that we have in this world today, how people always say, well, if Tyson would have fought him, or if Tyson, they ain't fight him. They're not around right now. But what they're doing, they're dominating in the world today, and nobody today in this world today can beat the Klitschko brothers because they haven't. And if they have, then hey, so let them fight them and let them beat them. Show it, prove it to me. But those two guys are definitely great guys, great boxers, and regardless of what you say about any of them, they are winning fights. They're dominating.
They're doing what they have to do, and that's it. That's what you have to do. Win the fights.
Yep, they winning fights. Regardless of what they're doing, they winning fights. They dominating.
In terms of fighting both of them, one is more aggressive than the other, so your style would have to adapt to meet the various fighters.
Yeah, well, both of them have they don't have similar styles. Vitali's a little more trickier, but Vladimir, to me, is I think the more threat because he's younger. If Vitali was younger, Vitali would be more of a threat, but Vladimir is younger, but Vladimir don't have the mentality that Vitali has, but nobody can beat either one of them. So I mean, that's how you sum that up. You can't beat either one of them. So if you get a fighter in there that has that can capitalize on Vladimir's weaknesses, then they can't capitalize on Vitali's weaknesses. Or if you want to capitalize off strength, either or, you ain't beating nobody beating them. So I mean, there's nothing else to say, but they're doing their job. They're winning fights.
Does that include Bryant Jennings?
Huh?
Does that include Bryant Jennings?
No, I haven't fought him yet. I can't speak for nobody that hasn't fought him yet. I know where I would want to be. I know how hard I will work to make sure I get up in there and I beat that ass. And I make sure I go in there and I give my all and I show my true fighting, my true champion sportsmanship.
Champ, listen, I want to thank you so much for making this interview possible. I'm humbled that you've taken the time to do this interview with me. I really am. As I said, I'm a supporter of what you do. And I sort of wish you all the best. And as soon as you know when your fight's going to be, please let me know.
All right.
Thank you so much for talking to Bayloric TV. Before you go, let the fans know how they can contact you via your social media.
Yeah, you can contact me on Twitter at BYJennings. And also on Instagram at BYJennings and on Facebook at Bryant Jennings. But my Twitter and my Instagram is the most active.
Bryant Jennings, thank you so much for talking to Bayloric TV.
You're welcome.
Thank you, champ.
All right.
But there you have it. There was my interview with Bryant Jennings. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the champ, Bryant Jennings, a man that's on his Facebook, on his Twitter, on his Instagram, always talking to fans, So genuine, real nice guy, and boy, he can fight. And the thing I like about Bryant Jennings, when I talk about champions, he definitely has got that championship mentality there. Fiercely competitive, with an iron will, and the only man I remember of recent times with that sort of determination and iron will was Evander Holyfield. And if Bryant Jennings can pull off half of what Evander Holyfield did in his career, wow, we're going to have some great heavyweight fights in the future. I hope you enjoyed the interview. I hope that Bryant Jennings answered some questions that you may have had about him. Of course, the biggest questions will be when he gets in that ring. And I wish Bryant Jennings all the very best in his upcoming fights. This is Bayloric TV. I'm out.